Let me just say I want it on the cloud. Okay, we're good.
All right, I want to call a meeting to order. We assume we have everybody here. Could all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
How did they get?
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of
America,
to the republic for which it stands, one
a
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty,
and
Justice.
justice
for
for
all.
all. Have a seat, please. I do a roll call, please, Suzanne.
Sure. Member Cohen,
Present.
Member Hawk,
Present.
Member Phillip,
Present.
Member Toss,
Here.
Ad hoc Member Whipple,
Here.
Ad hoc Member Shandelman. I don't see him yet, but I believe he's getting on. All right, so he's, and Chairman Cornelius.
I am here.
Okay. I just wanted to say one thing on the minutes. I did notice a couple typos, which I'll fix, and one planning board member also asked me to include something, which I'll include and I'll send to everyone. But if you have any other comments, you can just let me know.
Okay. Does everyone else have a chance to look at the minutes?
Yes.
Any other comments?
Nope.
And outside of those little changes that Suzanne mentioned, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the November 23rd, 2020.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And for the record, Mr. Shandelman is on.
Okay.
So, John, you want to start with the two adjournments, please?
Yeah, I was going to mention the next thing on the agenda was the continued public hearing for 14 Woodland Place. The applicant requested an adjournment to the January 28, 2021 Planning Board meeting. And that will be at 7:30 PM on Zoom unless the restrictions are lifted. The next thing on the agenda was the continued public hearing of JP Morgan Chase Bank.
I need a
Well,
motion.
We need a motion
Oh, you
and a
need a
vote on
motion?
that.
Yes, in a second.
All right, then I'll make my motion to approve the adjournment.
I'll second. This is the first adjournment, right?
Yes.
Okay, now you can go to the next one. I'm sorry.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the next is make a motion to continue the public hearing for JP Morgan Chase Bank NA, requesting an adjournment to the January 28, 2021 meeting. And that will be at 7:30 PM on Zoom unless the restrictions are lifted.
This is the second.
That's the motion.
Yes,
The second or first one?
this is their second.
the
They
first.
adjourned last month because they're waiting for final approval from the bank on the landscaping, and with the holidays, they couldn't get everyone's buy-in because they had to add more things and it's more costly.
Okay. I guess we can give them two. Next time, maybe they should renotice.
Okay. Who seconded that, please?
I'll second.
Okay. All in
All
favor?
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Next, I make a motion to continue the public hearing of Stage Street Associates LLC, 130 Route 59 for proposed office warehouse. I assume they want to come in January?
No, it's not an adjournment. It's a continued public hearing. It's
Oh,
on.
that's what we're gonna listen to.
Yeah, they're here.
I need glasses. All right, Stage Street, you're up.
Thank you, John.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Last time, Paul Baum, first of all, Montalbano Condon and Frank, attorney for the applicant. We have Rachel Brees, the engineer for the project, is here with us, as well as Larry Turco, the principal this project. So we were last before you in October. You had your public hearing, and it was adjourned till this evening. And what really we're here for is to hopefully advance the secret process. We know that you had a draft environmental impact part two, a draft part 2 EAF from last year that was never adopted at the time the coronavirus shut down all the public meetings. And what we'd like to do is advance the secret process and have the board adopt that part 2 so that we can respond appropriately and we can finish up with the secret process and move to a negative declaration so that we can, look forward to approving the project. We have received some comments back from the plans. There's been some discussions with the fire department, and they're apparently okay with the fire truck turning analysis. Additionally, the village's consultant, Nelson and Pope, reviewed the revised traffic study and concurred with the findings of the traffic study. And we're still waiting for reviews from the Department of Health, the DPW, and I think also the DOT. So what we hope to do is get that part 2 adopted and then come back with a revised submission that will address all the comments of the various reviewing agencies, as well as the consultant's memo from Yves Mancuso and Valerie, and come back for the next meeting. But we're here to answer any questions from the board regarding the items that were raised at the public hearing, and just try to move this project forward since it's lingered so long as a result of the coronavirus shutdown.
This is Suzanne. I just wanted to let everyone know for the record, I did reach out to the Department of Health because they owe us a number of comments, and right now they are not doing reviews due to COVID. That's their priority. So we're going to have to wait. I have it in writing. If you need a copy, Paul, I'll send it to you. The DOT, I have reached out 3 times. In fact, another time today. Since the revised plans were sent on October 7th, I have not heard back, but I will attempt again. And I have not heard from the DPW, but I will contact them again as well.
The environmental health, the health department, they did write a memo back in March.
March, I believe,
And-
3rd or 5th on that was on the first plan, but they have not commented on the revised, but I don't know that there is that much of a change for them to make a comment on anyway.
Yeah, I don't think anything is that significant. Rachel, there's nothing there that is an issue, right? It's the mosquito control and
The standards.
it's-
Yeah, so the review is standard. It's just that mosquito control, which we have to do for all of them, and then making sure that we would comply with the sanitary sewer requirements. So that's not a big deal, and it wouldn't be, that's the same as it would be now. So even if they did a new review, it would say the same thing, so that's still fine. And we did resubmit for Crown Co DPW to address their sewer comments, but we have not received an updated response.
All right, I'll follow up with them again in the DOT.
And the DEC was also reviewing the plan. Rachel, has there been any further comments back from the DEC regarding?
No, we resubmitted to DEC, just so everybody knows, we do, as we've acknowledged in the past, we do need a DEC permit for disturbance in the 100-foot regulatory area. We are not disturbing the wetland itself in any way, shape, or form. It's just the regulatory area. It's been submitted. We had received comments in the past. We have resubmitted, but we haven't heard back anything new.
Okay.
So I guess other than that, Mr. Chairman, where it's your meeting, we're here to respond to whatever comments from the board, from the public hearing, and to update the board in any way we can and move on.
I think the biggest thing since the last time was that the traffic had been addressed and the traffic was reviewed by the planner's office, both by a traffic engineer in the planner's office, and that was all addressed. So you should have had the letters that's correspondence regarding that, but that was all taken care of.
As far as the traffic study, it looks like it's not really gonna have a large impact on the traffic on Route 59 from what I'm reading here.
Correct. So the traffic study shows that, the original traffic study was showing included Stage Street when we had parking on Stage Street. By eliminating that parking, the traffic engineer was able to update the study so that, because the greatest impact would have been on Stage Street. So now this shows that any queuing would just be for the driveway exit, doesn't impact the public roads in any significant way.
And the worst level of service looks like it's a D versus an F anywhere.
It might be. There were a lot of questions that our consultant had that were responded to. Am I safe in assuming that our consultant was satisfied with those answers?
That's correct.
Who? Is that Rachel?
That was Valerie.
Valerie.
Valerie,
Including not studying 59 and Airmont Road?
I mean, the
Yeah,
traffic study?
Right. I think that was not done.
It was reviewed, and Nelson Pope, the person from their office that did the traffic review, was satisfied with what they did. So there should be a letter on the record. And then Valerie's letter, actually, like the last sentence, the last piece of it says that they had issued a letter from December 18th that Harry Baker adequately addressed their comments, and they agreed with the conclusions of the study. So there's no further comments. So should be set.
Valerie, do you have anything else?
No, I think at this point there, the applicant did mention that there are a number of outstanding comments that need to be addressed, but they want to move to the next step in the seeker process so they can start looking at those, the various environmental impacts, and then also address Eve's comments as well as our outstanding comments.
Hard to hear you, Valerie.
Oh, sorry.
It's a little low. Just if you could raise it, because I'm at the max. Thank you.
So what is the next step in seeker that he's looking for?
The
So
part-
the board is clear.
So, Mr. Chairman, what, back in July of 2019, the board had classified this action as unlisted, declared yourselves lead agency, and you did an uncoordinated environmental review. We went to the Zoning Board of Appeals. They did their own environmental review. They gave us a negative declaration, or actually it was considered a type 2 under secret with regard to the variance request. So they didn't have to do any sort of an environmental review at that level. We're now back before you, and the next step is you review the EAF Part 1, and you take a look at the potential impacts, and anything that you feel is moderate to large, you identify on your Part 2, and then we go ahead and we'll respond to those. And the consultant, your planner, had prepared a draft Part 2 back in July of 2019. And we're just really looking for the board to adopt that draft Part 2 that identifies any potential moderate to large impacts. And then we'll go ahead and address whatever impacts you've identified. And you can look at those and get to the point where you believe there's not going to be any significant environmental impact from this project, and you can give it a negative declaration. So I guess that's what we're really looking for, is to have the board adopt that draft Part 2 from July of last year.
Where does the comments from the agencies that haven't been made yet come into play? So in other words, if the board adopts the part 2, but we subsequently get comments which deviate or weren't contemplated under the part 2, how would that be handled?
So I think that the comments from anything related to the DEC, if anything, it would be to create less of an impact in the wetland, which would then be less of an impact. I do not anticipate any major changes from the DEC because the impact now is less than the last plan that they had reviewed. The last plan that they had was the one that had the parking on Stage Street, which did have more disturbance to the regulatory area. And then the comments, I think, from Eve tend to be more, drainage. Were there things that are all doable? We've done our soil testing, so we know that the drainage can be handled the way that we're designing it. Mostly at this point, it's kind of getting some more details together, almost like cleanup stuff in that regard. And I guess the biggest unknown is the DOT, but that impact would be that if this driveway already exists, we're keeping the driveway where it is. So we don't anticipate any significant changes there. The traffic, it was reviewed by Valerie's office, so we have a good idea that the impact is minimal to the state highway, where sometimes, you may have a case where there's a bigger impact to a state road. In this case, the impact should be minimal.
Valerie, do you feel that the area that was studied for the traffic study was adequate?
Our traffic consultants felt it was.
Okay.
The traffic consultants felt it was, that's correct. They had a number of questions. I don't know, can you hear me better this time?
Yes.
They had a number of comments from back in July of 2019. The applicant did update the traffic study and they felt that all of their comments were addressed.
Well, I guess in theory, it could always make it subject to any comments we receive back from these agencies once they do return a
But
comment.
right now, they're only looking to proceed forward with the environmental review. So we're not even looking for a site plan approval tonight. So we still have at least another month to see where the status is with agencies' responses, for sure.
Okay.
John, you want to open it up to the public, see if there's any comments?
Yeah, I was going to do that, Dennis. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing. See if there's any comments from anyone else at the meeting.
I'll second.
Anyone that has a comment, if you can raise your hand. I know one person who's on will be raising their hand, Shayna.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. All right, Shayna, you're on.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, how are you? Happy New Year and all that jazz.
You.
We're back here. Everything I previously stated, obviously you can remember back, I'm sure. The big thing about the traffic study, there was a mentioning at the end of the last meeting that Stage Street has a turning lane there. That is incorrect. We do not have a turning lane at the top of our street to go left down towards Airmont Road. I've read the other traffic study that was there when I foiled. Sometimes the traffic during peak hours, not so much recently because of COVID, backs up from Airmont Road all the way to Mr. Turco's property. So it would create an issue. It's not just my concern about Mr. Turco's project. It's beyond that. Route 59 there is horrible. There's been a number of accidents, including my husband getting rear-ended there, pulling into Stage Street. There's horrible amounts of speeding there. So that is a huge, huge concern, not just for this project, but for Airmont in general. As far as the environmental, I am still concerned about flooding with the rains that we just received, with the snow and everything else. I don't know if anybody's been down here on Stage Street and recently, but the amount of water down here is, it's pretty major. And there are actual drains at the bottom of the swelled pond, I guess you can say, that definitely do need attention. So if it was springtime, it would be a huge issue with the mosquitoes. So I know that to some it might seem minimal, but for us that live here, it's definitely a concern. Also, just a mention the fact that we all have wells on Stage Street. So any runoff or anything that is in our groundwater is a huge, huge concern. And really, the only other thing to mention was the zoning board did mention that they were concerned about the current status of the woods there now, that there's a possibility that they had mentioned about cleaning up and maintaining the wooded trees that are quite large here now because of the recent storms and the status of the soil. We're losing trees right and left, and that is a huge concern. Especially for the property and the soil holding. So those are my additional concerns.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else from the public?
One more ask, was this meeting supposed to be posted because there are new people that moved in to Stage Street in the last week and a half to 2 weeks?
It was a continuation from October. It did not need to be, have new mailings. It was in the newspaper. No, it was not in the newspaper. It didn't need to be renoticed because it was continued to a certain time and date from October.
Okay, so anything moving forward would be noticed, because I haven't gotten a chance to meet the new people yet.
Well, it depends on how the board decides at the
Okay,
application.
If it's a
Okay.
continuation, it won't be noticed again.
Correct.
okay, all right, but anything, okay, understood. Thank you.
Okay. So I guess before we close the public hearing, how do we feel about adopting the draft part 2 for seeker, planning board members?
I'd like to hear Eve's comment on the comment we just heard about pooling of water at the bottom of the street, if that's an issue or anything we need to be concerned about.
Yes, hello, board. The drainage issues are still outstanding. As Rachel noted, my October 16th letter, there are a number of comments that still remain to be addressed that they anticipated addressing after they had input from the DEC. But I did note there was a pond, and I don't have the plan right in front of me, but there's a pond just south of their property that has to be addressed because it would sheet flow over their property into the wetlands. So that's one item that remains open. And as was noted, the DEC permit is an open item in terms of stormwater. So there still is some input needed regarding the stormwater management. But in terms of being a wet area, yes, it is a wet area. It's a wetland, and it will remain a wetland, and it will be a wet area. If that outfall is blocked, Shayna can potentially call the village hall and put them on notice so we can send the DPW out to clean it if it in fact is part of the village system. But other than that, it's a wet area and it's going to remain wet, unfortunately. The only other items that I had open was I wanted to clarify the variances that were granted by the zoning board. And I have a note here regarding how those buffers were handled. Since I didn't see the zoning board resolution yet. And the only other open item is the parking analysis. So those were all noted in my October 16th letter. So I anticipate when the applicant returns, those are some of the items that they'll be providing additional information on. Let me just flip through. That was parking. Yeah, because I was curious to see if the zoning board specifically granted the waiver for the 50-foot buffer requirement. And that would be to the property to the west, which is actually the Montebello property. So I guess the applicant can report to us on that at a later date. And in terms of the part 2, unfortunately, I don't have a copy of it in front of me. So I don't know, Valerie, if you could sort of summarize if there's anything that jumps out at you in that part 2. The only thing in my mind would be the DEC permit, and I don't think that's a major issue. I think that's, easily resolved.
If you want, I can share my screen. I do have the part 2 up with me, and I can sort of remind the board as to what was submitted last time of environmental topic areas of concern.
That'd be great.
good.
Okay. One second. So I'll start from the beginning of the form. The first was impact on land. This was again back in July 2019, but at that point we agreed that yes, there was a potential impact on land, specifically dealing with slopes greater than 15%.
Mhm.
Also, that the proposed action involves construction that would continue for more than 1 year, and then also the result in erosion from physical disturbance or vegetation removal. We did not find that there would be a major significant impact on geological features, but we did identify that there could be a potential impact or potentially significant adverse impact on surface water. And the impacts could include dealing with proposed action would involve construction within or adjoining the freshwater wetlands. The proposed action may cause soil erosion or otherwise create sources of stormwater discharge that could lead to siltation or other degradation of receiving water bodies, as well as the water quality of water bodies and the potential application of pesticides and herbicides. We also found that there was no impact on groundwater, although you did hear a comment from the public tonight. So that's something that if the board would like the applicant just to provide a little bit more information as to how their proposed site would not interact with groundwater, that might be something that the board might want to consider. The impacts on flooding, we did identify that there could be potentially be an adverse impact on flooding, specifically dealing with modification of existing drainage patterns, as well as that the proposed action could contribute to flooding. We did not find that there would be a significant adverse impact on air, nor on plants and animals. We did not find any potentially significant adverse impact on agricultural resources. Aesthetics, we said yes. This would specifically be dealing with public accessibly vantage points, as well as situations where the viewers are engaged while viewing proposed action, which is routine travel by residents, including to and from work, as well as that it's visible within 0 to about a half-mile radius, and then possible visual impacts to adjoining multifamily residential complex. And we did not find that there would be any significant adverse impact on historic and archaeological resources based upon the existing data, as well as open space or recreation. We did not find there would be a significant adverse impact on critical environmental areas, that there could be a potential impact on transportation, specifically dealing with the traffic increase as well as safety concerns. And then we did not find that there would be a significant adverse impact on energy. We did identify potential impacts on noise, odor, and light, specifically dealing with noise associated with the proposed project and also light. And then we did not find any potential impacts on human health. And then finally, the consistency with the community plan. This was a potential impact dealing with the proposed land use components and may be different from or in sharp contrast to the surrounding land use pattern. And then consistency with community character. We did not find that there would be a significant adverse impact associated with community character.
Do you think perhaps that one answer regarding the impacts on Stage Street should be changed? I believe this may have been filled out when there was still an access onto Stage Street.
That's correct. I mean, this actually is something that will, the applicant will be able to provide us some additional information how this particular project varies, because I also believe that this was done in 2019 and there
Correct.
was there was 2 properties involved too at
Right.
that point. So
Okay, so is it not appropriate to change it now, that we should just accept it as is and let them report that the CHIP plan has been modified to address that item?
we can actually change that now if you'd like as part of the record, and then we should also have them address how this potential impacts are lessened by the proposed project.
All right. Yeah, because I would tend to change that number 13,
Sure.
if the board would agree.
So I can just remove this.
I guess it's up to the board. I would recommend it be changed.
Yeah, fine.
Sense.
Yeah, because this was reflecting the old plan.
You make it no or small.
Exactly. I would go with no or small then. Just so they can address the turning movements as was stated by, a member of the public.
Right.
Anything else?
Everything else looked great to me.
Okay.
Are the board members okay with what was presented in the draft environmental assessment form part 2?
I'm good with it.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm just wondering though, if now that we found out that I guess all the homes are on wells on Stage Street, if the applicant will be willing to indemnify those homeowners in case their well water became unsuitable for drinking.
Yeah, this is Russ. I would have a similar concern, being a resident also on a well with no access to public water. I'd be interested in knowing how the applicant can state that there would be no impact to the quality of their drinking water supply for the Stage Street residents.
I think that can easily be wrapped into the overall environmental impacts they're looking at.
And in the stormwater management plan, water quality will be addressed for stormwater runoff that's coming into the infiltration system.
Right, all that's great. So they're
We've
probably
done
working
this
on it,
before.
but I'm wondering if the applicant will be willing to indemnify those homeowners in case there was for a period of time.
Let me speak to this issue because we've done this before. What we did was that the applicant paid for baseline water testing pre-construction, actually pre-approval, and entered into a indemnification agreement, and posted some form of security. I don't recall what it was. And that there was a certain time period thereafter, post C of O's, where the water would be tested again to see if there was an adverse impact on the potability of their water.
Yeah, I recall we did that in the past. I don't remember the project. I think it was a new
It was
development.
close your ears here. It was Brian Brooker's project.
What period of time did we use in that case?
I don't recall. I think part of the problem was they were, I think, 11 single-family houses, and we sort of had to guesstimate how long it would take to complete. And I can't tell you that we guesstimated correctly, because it took a very long time for that project to ultimately be developed. In fact, I don't even think that, and this has to go back 8-9 years. I don't even think the roads have been dedicated, that the wearing course has been put on, or even if the last house or houses have been built.
Yeah, I think this was behind the Ammon Cemetery, that development, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
Well, I find this quite interesting since that's the development that potentially could have impacted my well, and this testing is not, I've never heard of.
You were one of the, you were not on the board, and you were one of the people who expressed your concern.
Absolutely.
At the public hearing. I recall that.
Yeah.
We listened.
Well, I don't know. You didn't test my well, but hey, if we can get these folks' wells tested, that would be great.
Well, I don't think there's been any finding or any determination that we're going to have any sort of an impact on somebody's wells. So I'd like to know the circumstances of that project. I mean, certainly if there's some evidence that our project may tend to have an impact on wells, we understand that there may be a need for that type of testing, but we don't see the need to go out at this point, and we'll look into it. But to go out and test everybody's wells, because maybe there's some chance we may have an impact somewhere down the line. If there's evidence that points to a potential impact on these wells that requires greater scrutiny, we'll certainly be glad to do it. So,
as I recall, in the instance that I'm talking about, the applicant's attorney made the opposite argument. He wanted the wells to be tested prior so that there would be a baseline. If the wells weren't tested prior and then subsequently after development, they started to fail the potability standards, there would be no way to determine whether or not that was a pre-existing condition.
I understand that, Dan, but perhaps there was something in that record that indicated that whatever the project was and whatever impacts generated from that project had the potential of having a significant impact on the wells, and that's why they took it to the next course. I don't think we're here. I don't think we're at that level yet. So I think we need to determine first whether there's any potential chance that we're going to impact any of these wells. And if there is evidence to indicate that we may, I would probably go along with you, and I would say, yeah, let's do that so that we can confirm in the future we're not having that sort of an impact. But at this point, I think we're jumping the gun.
Suzanne,
Yeah.
refresh my recollection. The name of that project starts with a C, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
I think it was October Hill.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, I'm mistaken. Yes, October Hill.
all that was before I was here, because I'm not here
Yep.
for 9 years.
Yeah, that was, I don't think that was a Brian project.
It was.
You don't think what?
So it was a Brian project?
It was Brian, and the engineer on that is the alternate engineer, Dennis Letson.
I can confirm that's true.
Thank you, Eve.
So I would have no objection to pulling out, talking with Suzanne and going back and pulling out the EAF from that project and taking a look at what the issues were and, report back to the board. But right now, all we know is that some houses on State Street have wells. And the fact that they have wells doesn't correlate to any sort of an inference that just because we're building a project on our property that we're going to potentially impact these wells.
Well, I would offer that you currently have a static situation, and the presumption, at least to this point, there's no quality issues with the water from those wells. And when you initiate your project and you disturb that soil, now that's the variable that's changed. So if there is an impact to the well, I'm not a hydrologist. I don't know what the potential is, but the bottom line is they're existing residents. Right now, they have no problem. If they do have a problem down the road, what recourse do they have? I mean, again, it's very sensitive to me because I'm in that very same situation. I don't have a public water main to tap into if my well gets contaminated. I don't know if these folks have an option. I didn't. So that's why it's kind of a sensitive subject for me.
And I understand that, Mr. Hawk, and if there is some evidence that points to the fact that we may have a potential of contaminating these wells, we'll look into it. But right now, there's no evidence that indicates that we're going to have any impact to wells. The only comment that we have was from Mrs. Petey that she has well water. And, we do have engineers, and, you indicated you're not a hydrologist. I'm not a hydrologist. I'm not an expert, but we do have engineers, and they can look at these issues, and you can decide whether there's a potential impact based upon the evidence. But right now, there's no evidence of that. So I think it's a little premature to require us to go and test everybody's well, and to determine whether or not there's going to be an impact on this well after we start construction, after we start operating. I think that we need to have some sort of a nexus indicating that we may have a potential impact.
Did you do an environmental phase 1 and/or phase 2 on the soil on this property?
No, I did not.
Do you know whether you're going to be bringing in soil for fill and where it's coming from?
I do not know where it's coming from. I do not know if soil is going to need to be brought in, but nobody brings in contaminated soil, and the building department has a way of checking that. So to speculate that we may bring in contaminated fill, and that contaminated fill may have an impact on wells that are, 300 feet away or 150 feet away. All I'm saying is it's premature speculation to require us to do any sort of significant testing on the wells on State Street. If there is certain evidence that shows that we have any potential of impacting, it's a different story. So why don't we let the engineers decide?
Right, so I think as part of your environmental review that you're going to be providing the board documentation for them to determine whether there'll be a negative declaration of environmental impacts on this project versus a positive declaration. I'm sure you'll be able to provide them some information as to an assessment of whether there could be a potential for groundwater problems as a result of during construction and post-construction.
That's a perfectly reasonable request. We have no objection to that.
When the health department reviews the application, it's the potable water wells are within the jurisdiction of the health department. They'll be able to identify the location of all of the wells in the area, and that'll give us a better idea of the proximity and the potential for any contamination. Paul, do you know, if anything, what was developed on the site prior to being a wooded lot?
I don't think there's anything other than a single family residence.
So it was always single family, no hot spots, anything like that?
I can't state that. I don't have the knowledge to be able to answer that question, but.
Right, because when we did the mapper, nothing came up on the mapper when I looked at it. Valerie, I don't know if you discovered anything through the mapper as a potential hotspot.
Yeah, I didn't find anything when I did the mapper. Nothing came up on mine either.
Okay, well, we can certainly reach out, or you can reach out to the health department and get an idea of the proximity of the wells. And maybe further determination could be made at that point of where the nearest well might be that might potentially be impacted.
Back to the adopt draft environmental assessment, part 2.
For that one section that we had made an edit, I think it was 13F, is that what it was?
Yeah.
No, yeah.
If we have a check mark in that column that's no or minimal for F, which is other, would we not need at least a comment in there to at least indicate why it's low or no?
Right, so we can actually remove that. I mean, at this point, since we have it's blank, we can just remove a check mark completely for that piece.
Be okay with that? Or should we, I mean, if it's going to be low or minimal impact, we could just put some statement there. It's either one or the other, but I just seem incongruous to have a check mark with other blank.
I don't think we'll need it.
Okay.
Anything else on the part 2? Everyone's okay with it then?
Yes.
And what does adopt mean? Just so I have a clear understanding.
You're approving the parameters of what's to be studied based on the determinations made in that form.
Does that require a motion?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve or adopt the draft environmental assessment form part 2. Is there a date on that form?
Well, we should date it today since we made some changes to it. So
Agreed.
I would say
12/29.
29th. Yep.
We have to put anything in there that we want to look at the water and wells in a little more detail.
I would say with conditions that I would add that as a condition of your
Okay.
resolution.
Add that as a condition. Everyone okay with that?
As amended.
Yes.
Someone want a second?
Just
I'll
good.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. I guess we have to make a motion to continue the public hearing. Do we want to select a date?
I just wanted to point out the planning board meeting for January 28th. Right now, we have the 2 continuations that you did tonight, 14 Woodland and Chase. We
Yep.
also have 4 Beatrix, which may take a good amount of time. I just wanted to point that out.
Yep.
But the next meeting is January 28th. After that, the meeting would be February 25th. It's the fourth Thursday of the month.
Okay. So I don't know if the 28th is going to work.
Paul, take the 25th.
No, I think that I mean, January 20th, not practical because we're gonna have to submit revised plans, documentation to the board. It's probably gonna take us a couple weeks to do that. And you're not gonna have, and your consultants will not have the time to review it for your meeting of the 28th. So I think from a practical standpoint, as much as I'd like to keep this moving a little quicker, February 25th seems like a reasonable date. Will give us the opportunity to submit the documents. And I think it would give the board and the consultants a fair opportunity to review that before the next meeting. So,
Okay, then I'll make a motion, to continue the public hearing for Stage Street Associates LLC, 130 Route 59 for a proposed office warehouse on February 25th at 7:30 PM on Zoom, unless the restrictions are lifted by the governor of the state of New York.
Which I thought will happen.
Second.
Who wants a second?
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right, Mr. Bond, we'll see you on February 25th, hopefully.
thank you very much. We appreciate your time and have a happy new year, everybody.
You, Paul, have a good New
Thank
Year.
you, you too.
Two as well.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is a continued public hearing for 282 Route 59, proposed office building.
I'm gonna unmute, the applicant's unmuted and so is the engineer.
Okay,
You have me again.
You, Rachel?
So. Yeah.
happy again, oh no.
So we are back for 282 Route 59. We were here in November. And since that time, we were able to submit the fire truck turning template plan to the fire department so that they were able to review that. The plan was accepted. I do know they issued a revised letter. We received we received comments from the DOT dated December 23rd. We have not finished addressing them yet. With the holiday and everything, just haven't had the time to do it yet. We are working on it. The applicant has retained a traffic engineer who has been working on some of the comments that have been requested from the DOT. And we are working to get everything resubmitted.
They also attended ARC. I did send the memo a little later, sorry, but everything was fine and they don't need to return to ARC.
Yep, read the memo, okay. Does the consultant, Valerie, have anything to add to what Rachel?
No, except that the board can declare themselves lead agency at this meeting. The Tallman Fire Department as well as the traffic impacts have been reviewed. The Tallman Fire Department signed off on the, truck turnaround, and then the Nelson Pope looked at the traffic and found that the project was acceptable.
Okay,
So the Tallman Fire Department has no issue then with the turnaround for their 20 tower?
No, they found it acceptable. The plan was based on the Tower 20 template.
Okay.
Oh, there is one note though, going back to the Department of Transportation, that they did require some additional traffic volumes, trip generation and trip distribution. So this is something that the board might want to consider requesting that you receive this information prior to any approvals to the site plan, if this is of concern to the board.
well, traffic is always something that has to be looked at over there.
And you should require an escrow for our traffic consultant to review the traffic report generated by the applicant's traffic engineer.
Dan, we haven't done that with others. When I get the bill, I bill it out, unless you prefer that. I'm just letting you know.
Okay, that's what I've been used to.
Okay.
You haven't had any problems, have you, Suzanne?
No, and I will say, this applicant always pays on time. If not he's one of the better payers. I never have an issue, and nobody goes to the next meeting until they pay me. Or pay the village, excuse me.
You're a tough lady. Eve, you have anything to add?
Mark, did you have an attorney at the last meeting? I'm trying to recall. No? Okay.
I do have a November 23rd letter out there that I'm sure those comments will be addressed in the next plan revision, and I look forward to receiving a revised set of plans.
Okay,
For the record, there is a new GML based on the revised plans that was in everyone's packets.
any other questions from the board members?
No, thank you. No question from me.
All right, I know this is a public hearing, so I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for 282 Route 59 for an office building.
I'll second.
Thank you, Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Anyone from the public want to make a comment on this proposal? So Rachel, when do you think everything will be ready to be reviewed again? Knowing the 28th is going to be a tough meeting.
You're on that one too.
Yeah, I'll be there for 4 Beatrix, so I know that one will have a full house. Since we hit the limits of our attendance on the last one.
For the record, I am upping the limits meeting.
Okay. You're going to be there on the 28th then?
I will be on there on the 28th either way. How much before the meeting do you need everything? And will you require a response from DOT before you take action, or is it sufficient if we've resubmitted to the DOT? Because if you're looking for the DOT's response, I can't imagine we would have a response by January 28th just because they're slow. But our intent is to have everything resubmitted shortly, based on their comments. But I would be very surprised if we had a response that quickly. I mean, as Suzanne said, I mean, on 130 Route 59, we've been trying to get comments on it, and we can't even get comments on that one to start.
Well, that's a decision you guys are going to have to make, but it sounds like even if we put you on the January 28th meeting, we won't be able to really move things forward. And you have a much better chance of getting a response for the February meeting and potentially being able to move things forward. That's my thoughts.
I would agree with that. I think we should go 28th.
Kind of makes sense the way things are going.
For the 28th, there are 2 religious applications and they always go first. So
That's fine. That's not a problem. they declare, you declared yourselves lead agency on this application, correct? It looks like you did in August. Okay. So
No,
is that-
it would be tonight. They're gonna declare them. It would be official. They declare themselves an intent to be lead agency. in August.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So can we at least take care of that so that that's
Yep.
officially
I was gonna
continue?
close the public hearing and then do the seeker.
Okay.
Or continue the public hearing. That's why I'm looking for the date.
If you would be willing to take action without comments from DOT and make it like a conditional kind of thing, then we would look to do January. If you are not going to take action until you hear from the DOT, then you should do February. I mean, I'm there in January either way, so.
So Dan, I think we want to hear from DOT versus making it subject to.
I hate subject to.
All
You
right.
know that.
25 February.
February.
So I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing for 282 Route 59 LLC for proposed office building on February 25th at 7:30 PM via Zoom, unless the governor of New York State lifts the ban.
Second.
You second, Dennis? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None.
Aye. No.
Okay.
Lead agency?
So I guess we're okay being lead agency. Any comments from the board members?
No, fine.
So I'll make a motion to declare the Planning Board of Vermont as lead agency for SECA for this application.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Is that all we need to do?
Valerie, do you think this is likely a type 2 action?
I believe this one is not, because it goes above the fourth, isn't it above 4,000 square feet? I'd have to take a look. I think it's an unlisted action.
Okay.
I think
It
it's
looks
my-
like
I
in
have the square footage of the
August,
building
there
is
was,
4263.
Yeah,
in August, I think that there was a motion that it was to list it as an unlisted action.
That makes sense, yeah.
You want to make a motion on unlisted or wait until they come back in February?
It looks like you made a motion to list it as an unlisted
yeah,
action
it's an
in
unlisted
August.
action, because I think it's 4,000 square feet.
It's more than
is-
4,000 square feet.
Yeah,
Okay. So we're good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Are we ready to move on? To Dunkin' Donuts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, have a great New Year.
Happy New
Happy
Year.
New Year.
See you next
Happy New
month.
Year, Rachel.
Bye.
Bye, Barry.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yep.
Donuts.
Happy New Year, guys.
So, 14 North Airmont Road. Is this a public hearing?
Yes, it is.
What happened though?
Dunkin' Donuts, proposed drive-through for existing Dunkin' Donuts, amended site plan.
Ready?
Let me unmute, Ken Moran's unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Are you talking, Ken?
No, can I go?
Yes, please go,
Do I have to
Ken,
ra-
please.
I'm raising my hand. Can I go?
All right, raise your hand.
Okay.
Okay. This is, as was stated, this is Dunkin' Donuts. This is the Dunkin' Donuts that's located in the existing gas station convenience store on Airmont Road at the intersection with the barn. That's where the traffic light is. It's across the street from the defunct Friendly's restaurant that appears to never going to be activated again.
No, it's gonna be a Panera.
That's what I heard. I heard that 2 or 3 years ago too. I'm still waiting. Everybody's waiting.
It's gonna happen.
Okay.
Don't
So
worry,
everybody,
Sarah, they're
everybody-
fine.
yeah, everybody knows where it is. What they're proposing to construct a small addition to the rear of the building. Also a walk-in box, refrigerated box, and a drive-up window for service and a drive-through. And the proposal will also include additional plantings. They'll have some directional signs to direct them to the Dunkin' Donuts and some pavement markings. Again, this is an existing Dunkin' Donuts, but to get the donuts and the coffee and everything, you have to get out of the car, go inside, put the order in, and wait until you get your order. This way, they would just have to drive up. Everybody knows how it works, and be much more convenient. And we found, the Dunkin' Donuts has found that customers, especially now with the pandemic, which although it may be ending, I think people's habits, a lot of their habits are permanently changed, or at least for the near future are changed, so that they would prefer to stay in their car and just put in an order and then drive up and have somebody hand it out to them. And that way they don't have to get out of the car and they don't have to come in contact with other people if they don't want to. This will be an asset to the village because this is what the majority of people want. And also, it's a safety concern with the COVID, which it appears it is going to be continuing for a while, even with all their measures that are being taken. So we appeared before the CDRC, I believe 3 times prior to this planning board. We made a number of changes to our plans, amended site plan. This has an approved site plan, and we're just amending it to provide for this drive-through. It was determined that now that we're having a drive-through, that now this Dunkin' Donuts is going to be classified as a fast food restaurant. So we have some different requirements, bulk requirements and so forth that we have to comply with. So we need the special permit and we need revised site plan approval. And because of the change in the bulk requirements, because of fast food, we are going to need some variance from the ZBA. The internal traffic circulation and the circulation out and in of the site has been worked on to maximize the efficiency of that. And also the county highway department excuse me, the county highway department wanted the southerly most entrance exit on North Airmont Road to be closed. So although it had existing 2, they're going to close that one based on that report from the county. We don't really want to knock heads with them. We prefer to have the 2, but we redesigned the plan so it'll have the 1, and then it would be also the entrance exit on DeBoyne Avenue, which there's a light right there, so it makes it easier to access that. If it was no light traffic control there, that'd be a different story. So we have consultants that we have contract with to revise the site plan, the engineer planting plan, lighting plan, drainage report, architectural drawings, fire truck plan, which has been approved. It was mentioned in the last application. We've submitted, or reports have been submitted from the fire department, highway, Rockland County Highway, Rockland County Sewer, village planner, village engineer, village traffic consultant, and the Rockland County Planning Department, which we just received today, this afternoon, which makes it a little inconvenient to respond properly with it. It's been categorized, this is a type 2 action as far as SECRA. Just a small addition to an existing building. So this is what we're proposing, and I have on the line the different consultants that will explain this in more detail, exactly what we're proposing. You have the plans, which have been amended, so those are our latest plans. After we listen to the CDRC comments and different comments from the different agencies. So I'm not sure who we have here. We have Mr.
Bill
Greeley
Greeley.
here.
Yes, Ken.
Okay, if you want to continue.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Philip Greeley, Mazer Consulting. We are the traffic consultant. Ron Riemann and I are both on the phone. To add to, Ken gave a pretty good synopsis of things. Just to add to that and to get into some of the modifications and adjustments that were made early in the process. We had contacted Rockland County Highway Department to incorporate, their requirements as we worked with Steve Sparacco in fine tuning the site plan. So a couple things in terms of our traffic study, which was reviewed by your consultants, October 20th, 2020 report identifies, traffic conditions, and everybody's aware, traffic on that stretch is very heavy existing. We have an existing site that has the 12 fueling positions, the convenience store, and the Dunkin' Donuts. So it already has traffic flow associated with it. We did traffic counts. Also, because of the pandemic, we have a variety of historical counts, both from County Highway, DOT, and from other studies that we've done in Ramapo, Montebello, and of course, Airmont. So we have a lot of data here to work off of. As Ken indicated, and as we saw in the traffic study, one of the concerns that Rockland County Highway had was the southerlymost driveway that serves the site is in close proximity to the traffic signal. And they felt that that would be beneficial to be closed to eliminate some of the turning conflicts that exist there today. So the site plan was modified to reflect that. In terms of our traffic study, again, we included traffic from numerous other projects in the area, as well as growth, and also the estimates of additional trips for drive-through here is a little unique because we have an existing site, but we had conservative estimates. Most of the trips for this type of facility are attracted from the existing traffic stream. So our numbers are typically conservatively high. With the closure of that drive, we did have to reassign some of the existing movements, but that driveway, primarily because during peak hours, because of the backups that occur at the signal, that drive, we did not have a lot of turning movements to begin with. Off peak, there were more vehicles using that, but in general, that's the case. So I think as a result of the input from County Highway and talking with your consultants, we've come up with a plan. We've modified it and tweaked it accordingly. One of the other things that we've done is the driveway out to DeBorn Avenue was shifted to the west to create some additional stacking at the traffic signal. And also that gave us the ability to create some additional parking spaces in the front. The early plan had parking in the rear of the building. Those have been removed. so that we could create a landscape buffer, and also to create a bypass lane for any traffic at queuing at the drive-through. We have stacking for at least 11 vehicles, and actually more, but extending back to where the northerly driveway is, we have stacking for 11 vehicles, and we have some additional stacking that we've created along the south edge. And maybe if at this point, if we could just pull up the plan, Suzanne, if we could share our screen,
Yeah.
maybe you can let Ron share his screen. He can pull up the plans and we can.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ron. Why don't you pull up our
Thank you.
Steve's site plans?
Okay.
So the first plan is really just the existing conditions plan and shows the areas where
Did anything share, Phil?
are currently paved. Ron, why don't you just pull up your drawings on the screen?
Yeah, I'm trying to get it. Okay.
Just bear with us a second. So while Ron's pulling up the plan, I just, we met with, early with Rockland County Highway. We incorporated their modifications. They provided us with a concept approval. We also shared with them our landscaping plan to ensure that they were okay, because we were showing some of the plantings along the county right of way to dress up the front, especially in the area where we're closing the driveway. So this plan that's on the screen now is the existing conditions plan. So you see the pump islands in the front, you see where the existing parking spaces are today. And the area of pavement and the two driveways to North Airmont Road and the single driveway out to DeBorn Avenue. As I said, the southern driveway is being closed off as per the county's recommendation. And we can maybe just jump right to the proposed plan. So this proposed plan depicts those areas where there's modification. So the southern driveway is closed here. We're creating some parking spaces in the front area. The existing driveway, which is shown in white with the arrows in and out, is being shifted to the west. We're still tweaking that a little bit, but we've shifted it approximately 2 car lengths to the west. The drive up area is created on the north side of the building, and the gray area is the bypass lane. And this shows where vehicles would stack. The driveways as they exist today were supposed to be functioning with no left turns entering or exiting. There were vehicles that try to make that left turn in or out of the driveways today. One of the other county recommendations was, in addition to closing the southern driveway, was to reinforce the northerly driveway to not permit left turns in or left turns out, and that the left turn movements would occur at the signalized intersection where they could be more efficiently controlled. So we've added some additional signing, conforming with current MUTCD requirements. And this north driveway would function as a right turn in, right turn out. The right turn out, we don't anticipate to be a very high volume. And I'll get into that a little bit more in response to some of the county planning comments. But we've created this counterclockwise circulation pattern, a bypass lane. Right now we have 12 spaces shown on the site. The site currently, I believe, has 10 spaces. We may lose a space in responding to one of the county's comments, but we feel we would, have at least the number of spaces that are there today. And that doesn't count any of the area near the 12 fueling positions where people tend to park, get their gas, will run into the convenience store sometimes. So that actually helps with some of the parking from a practical standpoint, not from a code standpoint. The other thing that I'll point out, that with a Dunkin' Donuts, with a drive-through, that data published by the Institute of Transportation Engineers shows that if I have a Dunkin' Donuts without a drive-through and then I put a drive-through, the parking requirement or parking usage gets reduced by as much as 40 up to 50%, depending on what peak time period you're looking at. So the addition of the drive-through actually helps reduce the real number of parking spaces that are used by Dunkin' Donuts. In terms of traffic that would enter from the DeBaun Avenue access drive, as I said, we're shifting that further to the west. That traffic would enter and proceed back to the east near North Airmont Road and extend, would be stopped to make sure that traffic was not entering, and then would be able to proceed to get onto the drive-through lane and continue in that pattern. So that would be the basic flow pattern here. I would like to point out that in the center aisle between the fueling pumps, you'll see that it's a little wider as you're closer to the center area. So that area does allow vehicles at the fueling positions to circulate. And then the area from the rear of those fueling positions to where the parking spaces are shown along the back edge, we have a 24-foot separation there that allows room for maneuvering and to circulate around. So if someone came in the North DeBaun Avenue, pulled up to the parking, to the pump island facing north, they could circulate around and exit out that driveway in that maneuvering area to the north. So that's pretty much the changes. As I said, the previous plan had some parking spaces in the rear. That has been modified to include landscaping in that area and some snow storage areas along the perimeter. And I think those are the key highlights. And I think maybe we can pull up the landscape plan and the landscape architect can talk about that a little bit.
Sir, to be clear, so what you're saying is if somebody comes off the North DeBaun entrance and they pull up to the pumps, in the example you just stated, they fill their car with gas, and then they need to go back on North Airmont towards the Thruway or towards the village of Montebello, you're saying that they would have enough room to do what exactly?
If after they fueled, they could pull away from the pumps, and in this area could move this white area to the north here. That's 24 feet. So that's adequate for them to loop around if they did not approach the pumps from the opposite direction. And they can head out to the North DeBaun Avenue. Similar to today, they can do this. You can see people will do that, especially if they're trying to make a left turn out, because it's, number one, it's not really permitted today. But number two is because of the traffic on North Airmont, it's easier to come out at the signal. So you'll actually see, vehicles circulate today, and we're keeping that area clear so that they could circulate and loop around. And as you see also in front of the convenience store, there's a fire lane there. So we have maneuvering area for those vehicles to turn around and exit.
And Phil, if I can just add to that really quickly. My name's Jeff Stewart. I'm the operator. We've actually increased their ability to get out there with that bypass lane. They could use that to loop back around the building.
Correct. Yeah, if you see that gray area on the north side of the site, so if I was at one of the pump islands, I could circulate in that bypass lane and loop around and get out to the exit. So we're giving them another option, which is in this case a good thing, especially if you look at the pump islands closest to North Airmont Road.
I don't think anyone's really going to do that. That looks to be a long way to go around. It's not intuitive that you would be able to do that, especially if you're not familiar with the station. I think what's going to happen is that people are going to go into that 24-foot area. Perhaps with their vehicle, they can turn around to face the south, or perhaps they have to sort of back up and pull forward again a bit to maneuver around. But then they're going to come directly through the pump area, either close to the building or between the first and second bays to sort of go to the exit on North DeBorn. Isn't that really how it's going to work?
Yeah, and today you'll see people today will do that. And what we're saying is we're allowing that to continue, and we're not impeding on that area for them to be able to turn around and do that to exit. I think what Jeff was saying is we've given them an alternate way if there was ever a blockage or anything happening there. We have the bypass as an alternative route if there was some sort of blockage in this area. But we're maintaining at least what's available today for people at the pump islands when they want to leave.
I think that's going to cause a lot of trouble because you're also introducing the drive-through lane, which of course it doesn't have today. So you've got people taking the drive-through, going almost directly against Airmont Road. You may have some that sneak through the pumps. I can see that's happening too. I think it's going to be a very complicated traffic flow.
Yeah, I would also offer from my own experience with this particular property, the crosshatched area that was mentioned as a bypass that's right directly in front of the store is frequently, if not consistently, taken up by people illegally parking there while they run in to grab something and come out. There's always cars there, so that's going to be blocked unless that's adequately controlled or patrolled or something. But there's always cars parked there illegally.
Yeah, we do find that people do park there, even going in, as I said, going into Dunkin' today.
Right.
And we're hoping, with the drive-through, we help alleviate that somewhat. And your point is correct. And also the area between the first two sets of pump islands as you move away from the building in the center has a wider area. So we have that area to be maintained, but we'll reinforce the fire lane. We're adding additional signing, additional striping. We have looked at this with the fire company and they've asked, we've tweaked certain things to accommodate their vehicles. But I think in terms of the drive-through will help alleviate some of the existing, stop and run into Dunkin' Donuts today because people will be able to use the drive-through.
Yeah, I think to some degree that's true, but I think a lot of people also use the app and they order ahead and they pull straight into that crosshatched area, jump out of their car, grab their coffee, get back in their car and leave. So I don't know how you could actually control or keep that area open, honestly.
I'm sorry, this is Dave Pinella with the franchisee. One of the other congestions we find is a lot of customers are getting fuel, right? When they're done fueling, they leave their vehicle there, go inside to get their coffee at the Dunkin', and then it just causes more congestion. What we've seen in other locations is now those customers will finish fuel and then just get right into the drive-through lane. So we're kind of hoping some of that will clear up now that there's the ability to get out of the pump area.
And regarding the app, that's available either for people walking in or driving through. So they can use the app just as readily driving through.
Yeah, so they don't have to get out of the car.
And right now, 100% of our customers have to get out of their car, park it, get out of their car and go in. Once we had a drive-through, typically 73% of our customers end up using the drive-through And the remaining people may park to walk in, but some of them are probably going to be at the pump anyway. So I do think that the parking congestion and associated traffic with that is going to be dramatically alleviated.
I had a question. If I'm entering from north to Bond, is that area, that roadway in there, wide enough for two-way traffic?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, Dennis.
The north to Bond, yes.
The driveway is currently 2 lanes wide, and we're relocating it to the west, and it will be 1 entering and 1 exiting lane. It'll be the same width as we have today. It's basically a mirror of that.
I meant that roadway that you have going around and up to the back, because you may have people coming out of getting gas if they're in the gas pumps that are closest to Amont Road, and they want to get out on North Lawn. You might have a conflict there.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
I'm not clear, Dennis, where you're talking about.
Dennis, I think what you're referring to is if somebody's at the fueling positions closest to North Amont Road, the area that we're showing to direct people to the drive-through, we're showing that there. We may actually pull it a little further to the south so that the traffic flow brings it more around the southern perimeter and then along the easterly edge. So we showed this to try to show you a path of how vehicles would travel. It would, likely that we would shift this as part of this tweaking of the driveway that we're talking about, would be to carry them a little further to the south and around. And we're also looking at possibly some minor widening along the front strip there along North Amont Road to provide a little bit more distance. And that's being worked as, we're tweaking this plan in response to some of the other comments that we just received.
Okay, so I'm at finished getting gas at the pump closest to Amont Road. And
Yes.
I want to get out, and I want to get out going on North to Bond, because it's pretty
Yes.
fast way out. I'm not going to have a conflict with any car coming in.
No, you would be in a position where the vehicle coming in would stay to the right. That actual, what's shown as the drive-through striped area would be closer to those parking spaces down along North the Bond. So there's enough turning area there, so you don't have that conflict.
Okay.
Are all of the parking spaces moved now to the south there along the border?
No,
Or are there
no,
any
we
remaining?
still have, we have a couple of parking spaces in the back area near the bypass lane in the southwest corner. So just to the west of the relocated driveway, we have a couple of spaces there. We also have spaces up at the north end in that striped area in the pink striping. There's a total of 3 or 4 spaces up in that area.
Okay.
And then we have these other spaces down in the front area.
Because, I mean, a lot of these spaces look pretty rough for pedestrian traffic, I'd say. So to reach the 2 that you're proposing off of the bypass lane in the drive up, you'd have to take the bypass lane all the way around and then park in that area there where your cursor is indicating, I guess.
That's correct.
And then you'd have to walk across the drive up window area and then into the building, correct?
That's correct.
That
And
seems,
where
that seems
we
rather
have that,
dangerous.
well, where we have that stop bar. So the traffic either coming as they're leaving the drive-through or in that bypass area, they would be stop controlled. On this particular plan, we don't show it, but we were looking at adding in a crosswalk in front of that stop bar. And then as people pull away from the drive-through, they would come around and they would have a clear line of sight to where any pedestrian would be crossing at that point. Similarly, if anybody came in off of North Debon, as a pedestrian from the adjacent area, they could also use that crosswalk to get to the building.
And those
Yeah.
would probably be the most likely spaces that we would designate as employee spaces, to be most frequently used by employees rather than being open for the public. We're going to need to have some parking available for them also. So
That would make more sense. Because those spots and then the spots you have along the south of the property along North Debon, you're going to have to cross over the incoming drive-through and through the pump area to get to the store and then back again. And you're going to have folks pulling up to the pumps. You're going to have folks using the 24-foot turnaround coming back through the pump area at them, as well as folks using the drive-through. So that's it could be very confusing, I think. I could see there being some real confusion with a setup
Oh, you
like
see
that.
half.
Yeah, one of the reasons why in looking at those spaces up front was in closing off that driveway to create a little bit of an area there that's more protected. We could look at some additional striping and treatment to get people across with a marked crosswalk through this area. So if I parked in any of those spaces in the front, you would walk on the back area of the cars, and then across that drive area, we could put in a drive-through striping in there to direct them so that they're not just haphazardly walking.
Right. I mean, you could put striping in like that. They may follow it, they may not, but it would be more helpful. Because right now I don't see any in the plan.
Joe, one of the things we're looking at is actually shifting that driveway onto North Debon, maybe a 1 or 2 car parking spaces closer to the intersection. And that would leave us possibly the ability to take a couple of those parking spaces and put them on the other side, which is, again, a lot more convenient. You don't have to cross both lanes of traffic to get to the building. So that is something we're contemplating, how far do we adjust that curb cut location, which may shift some of those parking spaces.
Yeah, the actual future driveway may be positioned straddling the former existing and what's currently proposed. So almost centered on the 2 driveways is where it may be the best optimum location.
And again, what we're trying to do is get it far enough back from the light that it's effective, right? But then get it a little further away from the building so we can maybe get some parking on the other side to make it a little more convenient.
Correct.
Yep.
Chris, the gas station operator and landlord, has been spending a lot of time analyzing the traffic flow within the existing site, and has been really working with us on how best to position that entrance off of Debon so that we can facilitate traffic really easily, coming either through the entrance off of North Airmont or preserving the exit from the folks sitting at the pump or anybody coming in.
And that goes hand in hand with Dennis's question before about, leaving the pumps closer to North Airmont Road. That's one of the reasons why the shift of this driveway would be, probably like half the distance of what's shown right now.
Dunkin' Donuts peak hours.
What are they?
Yeah.
From 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. generally.
And what is the maximum number of cars you expect in the lane ordering coffee?
Oh, we've had success in keeping our order to delivery times to below 2 minutes in all of our other drive-through locations. So, we're going to keep the traffic flowing. I haven't calculated the maximum number of cars, but the stacking that's reflected here is greater than we see in virtually any of our other locations. So, it's, from my perspective as the operator, I'm very happy with the stacking that we've got. as long as we keep the traffic flowing the way we do in all of our other locations, I don't think that's going to be a challenge.
And how many employees during your peak hours do you have?
Well, right now it's a much smaller store than we're going to be, than we expect it to be. But if this hits the projections that we've got, we'll have 5 employees there in the peak hours.
How many parking spots will remain for customers then?
Right now, we have a lot of employees that ride to work together. So, I think that we'll end up with probably 8 available spaces for customers. And that also doesn't factor in anybody sitting at the pump who wants to walk in and use the convenience store or us. So.
Well, I don't know if that's something you can count on for the future, that employees will be carpooling.
No, I agree. And so I think that if we say that 4 or 5 spots are going to be taken up by us, we've got 12 right now reflected on the plan, leave 7 or 8 for customers.
This is not the plan that was started out with, but the plan had to be modified because of the county highway department insistence that one of the southerly entrance on Airmont Road be closed. So it had to be redesigned, and they're working it out to the best design for that now that we're not able to use that southerly exit or an entrance.
Yeah, I mean, I am still concerned about that entrance off of Airmont Road and the people coming in to go to the drive-through. They're running right near to the pumps, and then they're supposed to stop at the stop line. But meanwhile, you'll have people coming from the north, from the thruway in Montebello, turning in and also getting into line, in addition to people turning in, going to the pumps, and then people trying to exit the pumps as well across the line. I can see where that might get very confusing. And if there is a backup, it's going to back up onto Airmont Road.
I think that's one of the reasons why we're creating this stacking area on the south side of that driveway. And actually the closure of the southern driveway gives us that area to work with. And I think, Joe, your comment is a question of people obeying and making sure that, these signs and pavement markings are clear and visible. And basically the people that would be at that stop line along the outer area have a clear visibility of anybody coming down and turning right into the site. And again, the county has restrictions on left turns coming in here. So you don't have to worry about anybody turning from the left because they're making a legal turn. The other thing that we're looking at is in response to one of county planning comments is the positioning of this driveway to see if we could tweak that to create a little bit more space to provide that separation and to do away with some of the conflicts you just mentioned. As I said, based on even current volumes leaving the site, most traffic is going out to North DeBorn Avenue today. And we don't see that changing. And for 2 reasons. One is, during the heaviest times in the morning and throughout the day, traffic on North Airmont Road, will even occasionally back up past this north driveway. It almost always backs up past the south driveway. And because of that, we see that right turn coming out of that north driveway to be a very minor movement in peak hours. In off peak, you may find people doing it more because it's easy, but in peak hours, as they already do today, they'll go out to North DeBorn Avenue and out at the signal.
Well, you would think so. You get the occasional person who tries it.
Oh, absolutely.
I know, because I drive this
Yeah.
street multiple times a day.
Yes.
So to make more room for the drive-through, are you proposing then eliminating the landscaping that you have? I don't know, see it on this map, but I think it's there at the end of the pumps between the sidewalk and the pump station.
Yeah, so-
there's a little landscaped area.
Yeah, so on this drawing, on the landscape plan, there is landscaping along the frontage.
Yes.
We did, and there's a white area in there. That's where we're talking about creating a little bit more width of pavement. So that white area in there, we're looking at creating a couple of more feet of pavement to create more maneuverability. We did discuss, and part of the permit that we have to get from the county, we did discuss with County Highway of doing some plantings, even, along the right of way, I'll say on the backside of the existing sidewalk. And they did not see an issue with that. It would be part of our permit requirements. And they just want to make sure site distances are maintained. So the type of plantings in there would accommodate that. So I think the amount of widening we're talking about is only a couple of feet of that white area that you see between the landscaping and the curb line would be that shift. So we would still have plantings, some of which are on our property, some of which in the right of way. And those early conversations with County Highway, with the closure of that driveway would allow us to do that planting, and it would be a condition of our permit to maintain it, what's in the right of way.
Would it be planting that would be, first of all, it would be designed to sort of separate between the walkway and the drive-through area, such that you don't feel as a pedestrian that a car is just going to come drive right
Yes.
into you?
Yeah, I think, the landscape architect can describe the planting plan here, but that was the idea behind this, was to create that, visual buffer between pedestrians and vehicles on the site.
Yeah, I mean, another consideration is the fact that their headlights will be shining directly into the traffic coming southbound on Airmont Road, so you'd want some sort of a buffer for
Yes.
that to block the light.
Correct.
I point out that the purpose of this meeting is to refer them to the zoning board, and that we will have plenty of opportunity to get into these issues, assuming that they get their variances.
Okay.
We want to make sure that the plan that we go to the zoning board with is acceptable to the planning board, so we don't have to go back again if something has to change. So that's why we're here trying to work it out now with the planning board, that it's acceptable to what we're proposing to the planning board.
Did anyone see the GML?
Yeah, I had a question about that too.
Well, we just got that this afternoon, so it's a little unfair to have a formal response to that in an hour or two. But
We're not
that's-
asking for a formal response.
Yeah.
We're just making you aware that I think they recommend disapprove.
Yeah, they've, seems like most of the applications that they get there, that's their recommendation.
Yeah.
Not really.
It's only the second time I've seen it.
Yeah, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
the second time I've seen it.
We just
No, I think it's
reviewed this
rare.
today, but I think some of the items that we're talking about on some of these tweaking and even the widening of this area down there along North Airmont Road was, to be responsive to that. A lot of the comments that they had was, making sure we conform with the fire department's recommendations, that we need a permit from County Highway, which we've had numerous discussions with already, in developing this plan, so that's no surprise. In terms of the parking reduction that we're looking for here, again, you know, there's data that supports that when you put in a drive-through, you significantly reduce the parking demand at one of these facilities. So that's part of the basis. I think some of the vehicular conflicts that they mentioned or concerns, some of the board members have referenced those. We are going to be making some tweaks to improve on that. But from a concept standpoint, we've worked very hard with County Highway and working with the existing site to create a pattern that would, you know, eliminate a lot of the conflicts they're talking about. And I don't think they realize that driveway, the northerly driveway, is a right turnout only. And I don't think they're aware of that with some of their comments. But we, you know, in terms of the treatment of that, I think those are some details. A lot of their other comments referred to the landscaping and the ability to landscape within the outside the property boundaries, which we have already had that discussion with County Highway, and they're amenable to it. I think we've also had some discussions with the adjacent land to the west about enhancing some of that existing landscaping. And then we removed the parking spaces around the back to create more landscaping in that area. So we'll prepare a formal response, but we just received these comments today, and we'll address them.
Yeah, and one of the things about the comments, it seemed as though he's considering there to be an inherent conflict between having a drive-through operation and a gas station operation on the same space. We operate a number of them where, you know, we are a tenant within a convenience store and gas station operation. And to date, we haven't had any issues with, you know, traffic conflicts, people having issues getting out and about in the space. We all think about it in terms of, you know, what's the worst case scenario, and we need to plan for it, but we don't experience those issues in our existing locations. They are compatible.
Now, it does make sense to me that having the drive-through will reduce the number of people that would have to park and hop in for a coffee. But my question would be then, what percentage of your customers only order through Dunkin' Donuts and don't do any business with the other convenience store items?
Well, I mean, right now we share a lot of that. So, but in our existing locations, the people that are coming in and using both of our locations typically are the gas customers that leave their car parked at the pump and come in, grab something from the convenience store, whether it's a bottle of water or a bag of chips, and may come over and grab something from us, but their car's still out there. We do have parking available for people that aren't going to be getting gas, of course, but you know, that has not posed a problem in our existing locations.
Any possibility that you could serve the water and the chips, etc., from the window as well, or?
We do,
Oh,
absolutely. Well, the chips, Chris, we're not selling chips out of the Dunkin' Donuts, by the way. He's on the phone. But yeah, we try to accommodate as much as we can through the drive-through. But you know, Chris is going to have his unique customers there. But again, typically they are sitting at the pump and they make the decision to come in and get something.
All right. Is this a public hearing, Dan?
Yes.
Yes.
So I want to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can we get us back to
Yeah,
Miss Suzanne?
I'm trying to get this out.
All right,
Screen, Ron, thank you.
perfect.
Okay,
Are there anyone from the public want to make a comment?
please raise your hand, or the chat is open at this point. I
Nobody?
don't see any comments so far.
So we have to refer them to the ZBA, Dan.
Yes, you would have to do two things.
Mr. Chairman,
One-
if I might interrupt you, I do
Yes,
have a
Eve.
letter that's out there.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And before we refer them to the ZBA, they have to define what the variances will be. And they're not clearly shown on the plan at this point.
Okay,
I don't know if you've had the opportunity. I did send in a letter today, dated December 29th. I don't know if anyone's had the opportunity to look at it, but I can certainly go through it for you. Item
yeah, if
by
you don't
item.
mind.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, number one, this is an amended site plan. Have we found the originally approved site plan for this site so we can determine what conditions, if any, were imposed by the town when it was originally approved?
I did find an old plan and I gave it just to Ken.
Ken, if you had a chance to look at that yet?
It's on a disc. I could send you over a copy.
That'd be great. Yeah, I'd like to see if there are any specific conditions from the original town approval from years back.
Okay.
Number two, there are a number of variances that are being sought. The front, rear, side setbacks, should it be appropriately labeled on the plan? And looking at it in detail, for some reason, I'm not quite sure why, there's multiple front yards. Dearborn Ave is not a dedicated street, so the front yard is only from Airmont Road. The yard opposite Airmont Road is a rear yard, and the other two yards are side yards. The plan as shown is showing 3 front yards. That's not correct. And I would defer to Lou to confirm that determination. But as Dearborn Ave is not a dedicated road, it is not frontage. Number 3, correct side yard setback and side yard requirements should be added to the bulk zoning table. The zoning table right now says there's a 0 requirement, and I don't believe that's true. Number 4, the property is adjacent to the RSH zone, which requires specific buffers in accordance with 210-21E1, which reflects twice the required setback, but no greater than 75 feet. Thus, the rear yard buffer shall be 75 feet, the side yard buffer shall be 75 feet. Number 5, as per the definition of a setback, the yard shall be measured from the buffer, not from the property line. So as I was saying, in terms of referring them to the zoning board, the variances being requested have to be defined. As of now, they're not clearly defined. Number 7 is regarding the parking. They do show 12 pumps divided by 4 per pump, plus a requirement of 2 for a total of 5 parking stalls for the pump. So that I would agree with. But number 8, I don't quite understand the breakdown for the square footage of the structure. The plan is saying that it's 2,469 square feet, but the parking calculation only addresses 131 feet of fast food area and 988 square feet of convenience store area. So the remainder of the building is not being addressed in terms of parking requirements. I'd like to see that clarified. Number 9 is regarding the stormwater runoff and the proposed stormwater system. There's a 48-inch underground pipe that's being proposed in the rear yard. Again, that's within the area that is supposed to be a buffer. So that's reducing the ability of plantings in the buffer. Number 10 is the proposed trench drain. The trench drain should be outside of the 15-foot wide easement area. Number 11 is still regarding stormwater management. This is regarding the connection to the existing off-site catch basin. The off-site catch basin is in the adjacent property, but it's not clearly shown if it's still within the drainage easement and if the applicant has the ability to connect into it. Number 12 is drainage calculations. They need to be provided. Number 13 is just a comment that numerous wayfinding signs have been added throughout the site to direct patrons to the drive-through. That's been discussed in detail through your traffic consultant. 14 is regarding traffic as well. 15 is regarding the fire truck turning plan, and I believe the fire official did review that. Number 16 is regarding the lighting plan, and the lighting plan appeared to be acceptable, but the pole height shall be noted. Number 17 is regarding the landscape plan. The landscape plan appears to be very extensive, but the vast majority of the landscaping is not on the property. So there's landscaping within North Airmont Road, as the applicant just described. There's also landscaping within the right-of-way of what would be Debon Ave if and when it's ever dedicated. And the rest of the landscaping is actually on someone else's property to the west. So as shown, the ability to provide buffers and landscaping on site is extremely limited. Number 18 is regarding erosion control measures, and number 19 is regarding, again, soil erosion and sediment control measures, and making sure the site's fully stable before any of the erosion control measures are removed. So at this point, I would not recommend they be referred to the zoning board because I don't think it's clear what the zoning variances are being sought.
Thank you, Eve.
From what I'm hearing, the next step should be a return to CDRC, I think.
Well, these were comments that were briefly discussed at CDRC, and this is the plan the applicant chose to appear with. So to go back to CDRC or to revise and come back to planning is, I'm not sure which route they should take.
Well,
if they
it
can
would
get,
be
if they can get to that.
CDRC, then planning. And then,
Well, if they go back to CDRC, then we'll have to do a zoning analysis, right? So it's not just them submitting, but then maybe Lou needs to take a look at and review everything to make sure that he's comfortable with what they're proposing.
I'm sorry, Valerie, I can't hear you very well.
Oh, so I think if we have them go back to CDRC, we'll have to do a full blown, I mean, we should do a full zoning analysis, right? And have Lou review and make sure he's in agreement so that when they come back again, that all the zoning variances are agreed upon. I mean, the zoning variances that are needed are agreed upon.
Yeah, we definitely have to figure out or confirm what the variances are.
Well, I'd like to have, obviously, which I said before, it determine exactly what is needed so we don't have to go, back and forth. I think, couldn't we get that by submitting it directly to Lou and then having him make a determination without waiting for a CDRC? Because meetings are hard to get scheduled, and then they have to get scheduled for another planning board, which I heard the two applications before us, they're having, difficulty finding dates, when the next date was, and they had to wait 2 months, 2 meetings. So I'd like to be able to submit it directly to the to the building inspector to have a determination of what variances are exactly needed.
You know, the plan that we were reviewing here today is the outcome of 3 sessions with the CDRC.
Correct. We were focusing on making the layout work at that time.
I'd have no objection because ultimately the building inspector makes the determinations anyway.
And there's a couple things, because the Bond Avenue, the first part of it is a dedicated road. So that enters into it too. If we have, it makes it difficult, whether we have 3 front yards or we have 2 front yards, it changes the requirements.
Correct. As of, from the map that was submitted to me, it says private road in accordance with my, my map of my official road map in the village. It's not shown as a dedicated road. So if something has happened along the way, then that needs to be presented in the survey. As of now, your survey shows that it's a private road as well.
Who plows it? Does anyone know?
I couldn't tell you. We could certainly ask the village.
I can check with the snow contractor. Find out. So who plows DeBorn Ave? Is that what I'm?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who plows,
that part of the Bourne.
maintains?
Okay.
Right.
All right. I'll find out. I don't know, but I will look into it.
Because
So make sure, Suzanne, it's North DeBorn.
Right.
yeah, I'm just thinking, I don't know how, if it were, well, if it were being, putting aside whether it's actually been dedicated or not, if it was being plowed by a private contractor, someone would have to pay for it. And that would probably be the gas station owner as well as the senior citizens complex that leads directly from DeBorn Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't make sense. Now, it could be that our contractor is doing it and that it's still not a dedicated public street. That's a possibility.
Well, who would have the
But we
final
have-
determination whether it was dedicated or not? I guess the village would.
Well, yeah, the village board would have had to have been offered and accepted the dedication.
By the town, probably by the town. It would.
No, I don't think so. I mean, you could be right.
That probably
but-
would have come in when the senior citizens
right.
apartments came in.
And that was the village.
That was
Right.
village.
So would the right approach to be getting a determination from the village and then coming back to the planning board?
Well, there are a bunch of things at issue here. Taking them one at a time. The actual variances that you would need from the zoning board has to be determined by the building inspector. But some of those determinations may and probably do involve first determining whether or not that portion of DeBorn Avenue is private or public.
So who would be responsible for determining that? I mean, for us getting that information, is that something we need to do?
If that road was dedicated and accepted, it would be recorded and the survey should pick it up. As I said, I don't have it on my official road map as a dedicated map. if Sparaco can find something different,
We're not looking,
Not
for any
everything.
particular thing. We just want to find out what it is.
Well, yeah, but as Steve, as Eve pointed out, it would make a difference in terms of
The variances, yes.
the
'Cause then
variances,
it wouldn't be touching a road. It would be touching private
right?
property.
correct.
And
The front yard is on Airmont Road. The rear yard is in the back. The one side yard with the utility doesn't need a side yard. So the questionable side yard is the one that's abutting what is DeBorn Avenue.
I mean, my recollection is that the town probably for this site and for I don't know north-south on this, but what used to be Licata, whatever building is on the other side of DeBorn Avenue, that whenever that approval was granted, the town took some money for a traffic light, and the ultimate thought process was that there would be a traffic light installed to hook up North DeBorn with South DeBorn. So this,
So that is the Licata property. Or
is?
Licata office building.
yeah,
Is that 12 North Airmont? I think it might be.
I would guess it is.
I
Yeah.
believe it is, but I'd have to look in the tax system. If you want me to check now, or I'll check, let you know. But I'm pretty sure it is because I remember him foiling a while back and it's in my head.
so
Well, I guess that's the first thing.
that road was probably built for this building and for the Licata building. And then the village became incorporated. Ultimately, an application was received for the senior citizens complex, and they probably extended the road into their development. But I don't recall. I was village attorney when that senior citizen complex went in. I don't recall them coming in for dedication of that road.
So would that then, to address Eve's comments about the setbacks in the front or side yard designation, would that then mean that if part of the road is private and part is public, then the private portion would be designated to whatever's abutting that, and then I don't know how would we in terms of what the setbacks are, setback
So the
requirements
front,
are?
the front of the building is Airmont Road, right? North Airmont Road is definitely the front. I think we're all in agreement with that. Typically, the back, the rear is opposite the front. And I'm 99.9% sure that portion of DeBorn Ave is not a dedicated road. So that would define the rear yard. The side yard to the north, we know abuts the utility. So that's not an issue. So the only side yard that really has to be determined, whether it's a side or a front, is if the first part of DeBorn Ave from Airmont Road in toward the driveway, your first driveway, is in fact, was it ever dedicated? The plan your engineer submitted, as well as my official road map, does not show it as a dedicated road. So therefore, it would be a side yard. If
Understood.
it's determined that it is a dedicated road or some portion thereof, then I would agree that that portion would be a front yard.
Okay. So we do need to find out whether what Dan was just describing happened, whether part of it was dedicated to service our space and across the street.
From
And
years
then-
ago, correct. That's why I'm going back to, we need the originally approved site plan. You know, that's what we've been looking for many months now. The originally approved site plan that was approved by the town to see how it was handled then.
Unless it was actually accepted, though, it's still not a public road. It had to
Correct.
be accepted.
Correct. And I don't have it as a dedicated road on my official road map.
That I would assume it's not then.
Well,
Well, I
it
can't-
could be an oversight, you know,
Yeah.
you never know. It could be an oversight.
And the side yard requirements, I assume, are less than the front yard.
Yeah, it'd make the amount of variances less than the amount of variances.
Well, there's going to be variances either way. It's just a
Right.
matter of defining them. So you request the proper variances, so you don't have to go back to the zoning board.
Right.
Right, but the magnitude of that could be less if it was a side yard.
So in either scenario, wouldn't that be defined with us through planning?
No, the zoning, the building inspector makes determinations with regard to the reading of the zoning code and in this case, what variances would be required.
So in that scenario, wouldn't the next step for us to be kind of get a review from him, define, and then come back to this board?
Well, I
with
think it's
those- with that determination?
two part. One, public or private road, then building inspector.
And I would also add to provide the originally approved site plan. So if all that information is available for review, then a good determination can be made.
So kind of to go back to the original, what's the next step? Does it, it doesn't, to me anyway, seem to make sense to go back to the CDRC.
No, I don't disagree with you. Because I think the main focus right now has to be on the variances, which are solely within the purview of the building inspector.
Right, you need to
Um,
identify your variances, so when you go to the zoning board, you're requesting the proper variance.
Right.
So in either scenario, we know that there's going to be a variance, right? It's just the mag of the variance, right?
There's
So if we
most
get,
definitely variances, yes.
yeah, understood.
Plural.
Correct. So
Lou, you have anything to say or add?
He doesn't look happy that he has, to me.
Good guess, thank you. Yeah, no, the variances have to be determined and then the magnitude of the variances have to be determined. So I have to review the information. And as far as I know, all my stuff says it's undedicated right now. So
That's-
if we could find some other information that would change that, I could make a better determination than guessing.
Right.
Yeah, or just confirm that it is undesignated.
All right.
I just pulled out the, when I got the property owners list, I just pulled that out and they give you a map. And it shows a lot with the senior housing on it going all the way to Airmont Road. I just
Right,
looked
that's what
at
I
it.
have as well.
So I gotta assume that's what that's the town's, that's from the town generated map and list of property owners, and it shows the senior citizen property going all the way to Airmont Road. Doesn't show any cutoff before you get there, so I would assume it's private the whole way.
So how do we make the final determination and make it official? So that we can then move ahead with figuring out what the variances are.
It sounds like we work with the, gather that information and work with the building inspector and then agree with the outcome of the required variance.
I can order a title report tomorrow
We're
and
all talking
see,
about it now.
and have
It's-
them determine, tell we need to know whether that's, you know, that
So I
piece
guess,
there is public or private.
yeah. So again, either way, we'll need to determine those and identify the required
And
variance.
they'll search the records to see if there is any dedication, which everybody seems to think there's not, so.
So the question,
Everything is on a computer now, you know, the county records.
yeah. So the question is, once that is, you know, we resolve that and we agree with the building inspector, right? Would we then where do we move from there? Do we submit to the zoning board?
Once we get the determination of what the exact variances are and the, you know, the extent of those variances, we would make an application to the zoning board.
Well, we come back here first, right? So that you guys
Well,
would
that-
recommend.
I guess
Well,
that's
you
my
come
question.
back in case you want to make changes that might affect what we're asking for. If we need another variance because of the changes you're going to make to the maps based on the comments tonight, you don't want to go back to have to go back to the zoning board again. So I would think it'd be prudent to come back to the planning board once we make that determination of all the variances.
Right, and we know that the February meeting is,
Seems to be
jammed.
booked already.
And we're gonna need some time to get all this put together. So
Does
that we
planning,
can-
does planning agree with that strategy?
I'm sorry, who?
The planning board, do you guys agree with that?
You have to come back to the planning board. We have to refer you to the ZBA.
Right.
Okay.
You gotta come back.
So we got, either way, we're coming back.
But we
You
need
come
to,
back.
we need to figure out whether we can get this all put together in time to squeeze into the February meeting. Or,
Well, January 28th is the next meeting. You'll never get on.
okay,
Your best bet is February 20.
What's the deadline for submitting for February?
Well, I don't need a new GML, so I need it at least 2 weeks before, which would be February 11th. Because normally I need it 4.5 to 5 weeks to do the GML. So if I get it 2 weeks prior on the 11th of February, that should be sufficient.
Can I point out something?
Yes.
I don't see a downside to referring them to the zoning board to seek the variances as determined by the building inspector. I mean, how many times have we had a ZBA meeting where the variances changed, the required variances changed while at the meeting? What's there to be gained by having figuring out this whole public-private road, meet with the building inspector, come back to us, that would vitiate against them just finding out the public-private, meeting with the building inspector, and once they knew what variances to seek, apply to the zoning board. And assuming they got through that, coming back to us. And just adjourning this meeting without date and renoticing it.
I think that's a good plan, as long as there's no material changes in the plan.
even if there is.
I think, Dan, that, you know, I mean, we've gotten feedback from Eve, and we've got feedback from Rockland County Department of Planning, and they raised some serious stuff, I think. So the reason to come back to planning, I think, would be to, I think, address those things first so that they don't go through the whole zoning process only to run into large issues with the planning board. And I think earlier I heard Ken say that that's the way he'd want to proceed as well, and for that reason.
I would like to get it resolved before we go to the zoning board so that we don't have to, you know, go back and forth. And those are issues that we just got today. So we need some time to work on it and have come back, revise it, and still go for the February meeting.
The February meeting is the 25th. I would need it by February 11th. I don't know if that's enough time. I'm just letting you know.
Well, just for instance, if say you referred us to the zoning board for variances, what are you going to just refer to variances that are required rather than saying which variances?
That's what we usually do.
Because before you're saying you had to determine which variances are required.
No, I said in this instance, they could word it that they're referred to the zoning board to seek the variances as needed and to be determined by the building inspector.
Well, how about if you refer us to the zoning board, then we decide to come back to the planning board in February.
I mean, you could do that. It'll just take a lot more time before you get approved for the project, if you get approval.
Yeah. And what's the advantage of that? It seems like it just adds more time. I guess I'm not clear. Is there an advantage?
Well, they're saying there's serious issues they want to resolve before we have to modify our plans. It may modify the variances that are required. That's the only difference. Once they're granted, then we would have to go back. If they're granted, we'd have to go back.
Regardless, you have to come back.
Yeah.
No, we'd have to go back to the zoning board if the variances change after we come back to the planning board if they don't like the layout.
Did the county fully understand? I got the impression that the county did not fully understand what you were doing and the agreements that you had made with the highway department, etc. Would it be to your advantage to sort of explain that to the county, and maybe they would be less onerous in their
I found out that they don't like changing their reports.
even based on new information?
Yeah. They would mention the new information, but then they would come up with the same decision. I found that in the past, that's exactly what probably happened.
Well, it sounds like then you're gonna need a supermajority.
Well, yeah, that's always, we're gonna have to.
Correct. Mr. Lawyer Dan, what are we doing? Our normal protocol is come back to us, know what these variances are, send them to ZBA and they come back. You want to change that?
No, I'm not suggesting that we change it. But I am pointing out that we've had plenty of applications that were referred by the planning board to the zoning board. And then once they got to the zoning board, the variances that they were seeking changed at the zoning board.
That's true.
So I don't
I would agree, except how are we going to know what the planning board wants, unless we come back after
Well,
considering these comments.
I'm not arguing with you.
Yeah.
But
I'm not arguing either. I'm just trying to figure
Um,
out the most efficient way to do it.
okay. Go with the, figure out public, private, meet with the building inspector, continue the public hearing to the February 25th, meeting.
Can we hear from the building inspector whether that timeline is reasonable? Can we get this resolved and clarified with you in time to submit on the
11th.
Right.
I don't know if that's possible. I mean, I can.
February 11th, not
Oh,
January.
all right, no problem. We'll see what we
Okay.
can do.
Okay.
I mean, once I make the determination on the variances you need and the volume of the size of the variances.
Correct.
You retweak your plans again, which is gonna change your deadline.
Yeah, so if we could resolve all that by the end of January, beginning of February, we'll have enough time to update the plan and get it submitted, refiled for the 11th.
Okay.
All right.
All right. I'll order the title report tomorrow. Hope they're all jammed up because it's the end of the year, but hopefully they can just, they can look it up on a computer, the county clerk, and get a determination from the title company. They should be able to determine that issue pretty easily.
And get that information that's on the CD to Eve as well.
Okay.
And I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing for 14 North Airmont Road, proposed drive-through for Dunkin' Donuts on 25 February at 7:30 PM via Zoom, unless the governor of the state of New York lifts the ban. We'll meet in town hall.
You like saying that, don't you?
I love that guy.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, who seconded that? I missed it.
Let's do Russ.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. And
Have a happy New Year, everybody.
Everybody.
Happy New Year.
Thanks, everyone.
Happy New Year. Good night.
Do we need a motion to close?
Do we have any new business or old business?
I don't have anything new other than I've got to up the Zoom for the January meeting. And that's really it.
What else would do business, old business?
Oh, can I just ask a question for Suzanne for training?
Yes.
If we watch one of the recorded webinars, how do we demonstrate that we did that? Because we're not going to get a certificate.
Well, if you do one of the Westchester Planning Federation ones, you let me know. I have the form for, which I took off from one of the websites, and I could fill it out for you and then send it to Arlene Miller.
Okay.
It's something else like a New York State Gov one. They send you a certificate. for
Even
that.
if it's already happened and it's not done live, like you're watching it like after the fact.
I don't know. I'd have to check into that.
Okay, because I think there was some
Also-
listed that we could view that had been recorded, but I just didn't know how we would,
Where are you looking? Where are you looking at? What websites?
I don't remember. It was an email I think that we got, and I was clicking on some links, and there were some options there. I just didn't know.
So
I think NICOM is starting to give classes online for free, if I'm not
Right.
mistaken.
I took 3 of them.
Right.
So I'm the president of the Westchester Municipal Planning Federation, and so we developed over COVID a self-certification form because of the fact that we can't give them out actually at the trainings themselves, and we haven't had a single municipality that hasn't accepted it. So, and I think I sent Suzanne.
That's what I say. I have it right here.
Yeah. So you can just fill that out and Arlene, you know, I work with her on a number, like, cause they usually will promote our training. So I'm sure if there was any questions, she could just contact me directly.
Okay.
And we usually, and we allow for self-certifications on stuff we've done. And then also if you do like Department of State trainings, just you're basically certifying that you took the training, you watched the webinar and, you know, in the title of it.
Okay. So Suzanne, I guess you could provide that form?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Okay, anything else?
No.
Right, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting and wish everyone a happy new year.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Yes.
Thank you. Second.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Russ, all in favor?
All right.
Any opposed?
Happy New Year.
Happy
New
safe.
Year, everyone.
Happy
Happy
New
New
Year,
Year,
all.
everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Suzanne.
Okay.
Happy New Year.